I'm cool with the camera skipping every once in a while because I don't really give a fuck to be seen like that. I just need my shit to work and stop making my computer run so damn slow. Hey, I think we did it. I think we did it. I think we did it. All right, let's get to it, man. I done held y'all up long enough. So, skidoo my shit working. I had a little technical difficulty. I feel like because of what I'm trying to do, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. So I feel like because the content that I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to put out there is the reason why it's doing what it's doing. So, hey, but without further ado, man, I've been trying to get shit together for like the past like hour. Um, we doing a video on Fred Hampton, man. He was chairman of the. He was a key staple of the movement, and I feel like after rewatching um Judah and the Messiah, that kind of brought this inspiration for me to do this video. So probably gonna turn this into a YouTube video as well. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna be able to do that, but YouTube will allow me to do it, thankfully, because my recording shit ain't on. So without further ado, man, I just want to drop some knowledge on y'all. Um, spread some light to what was going on, because the crazy thing about Fred Hampton and what I admired about him so much is that he was, for him to have accomplished what he did in such a short time and with the odds against had, I don't know, it just spoke to me because I've always been one that tried to, be a person of the people, try to voice what I feel. I've always, been a part of marches, peaceful protests, anytime anything goes on. I always, you know, part of that in one way or another if I can be. So, yeah, man, I'm gonna just keep yapping y'all head off. So it's crazy now that I got everything up and running. Everybody gone now. But without further ado, man, we just gonna jump into it. Um, um, chat settings, filters off, screen reader, auto announce. View certain, yeah, primary chat. Either- Damn, my shit moving like that. View, yeah, primary chat. Bro, why is my shit moving like that? Alright, I thought I had this shit figured out. Still trying to figure it out. 1 second, y'all. Crazy thing, I think it's just my YouTube. Yeah, my YouTube tripping now. I just think what it is, I don't need it multi-stream, man. I think that's what's throwing it off. But the crazy thing is, my Facebook running buttery smooth. I just think what it is, I don't need it multi-stream, man. I think that's if y'all in the chat, let me know. If you in my YouTube chat, I should say, let me know if it's running weird. My Facebook running buttery smooth. All right, I think it's working. I'm just gonna go with it, bro. So if you missed the intro, man, what we doing is like a little reaction video, live reaction to this Fred Hampton video. We just gonna kind of bring some light, shed some light to the young brother. You know, he was very impactful at a young age, and I feel like I've just been having this itch to shed more light on our history since they try to erase it so much. So without further ado, let's get into. All right, let's go live. Boom, boom. Make sure my sound is good. Headphones, yep. Turn the sound all the way up. All right, let's get into it.
We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you remember I said, with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a proletariat. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pig. The people are going to have to stand up against the pig. That's what the pastors do. That's what the pastors do all over the world.
You can jail a revolutionary, but you can't jail the revolution. You might run a liberator like Eldridge Cleaver out of the country, but you can't run liberation out of the country. You might murder a freedom fighter like Bobby Hutton, but you can't murder freedom fighting. And if you do, you come up with answers that don't answer, explanations that don't explain. You'll come up with conclusions that don't conclude. And you come up with people that you thought should be acting like pigs. That's acting like people, but moving on pigs. Damn it. There are not so many quotes in the world that could get any thinking mind thinking really helplessly deep, like the one you just heard. Those were the words from a great young man who
My bad. I had my sound on from two different sources, and that shit sounded weird. I'm glad I checked before I got too deep into it. So now that I got all my technical difficulties out of the way, all right. So yeah, let's just keep it rolling. I ain't even gonna
at the early age of 21 was hunted down and killed by the U.S. government in his bedroom.
You are the ones who are gonna decide for yourselves what happened in that apartment on the morning of the 4th. You're gonna decide whether or not Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were the victims of premeditated murder.
Now, as you open this, there's also, of course, a knob door in this one. As you open this door, there's blood behind the door. The top hole shows that the bullet was incoming.
They fired through the door. The brother fell here. Most of the blood is dried up, but you can see a little bit of it there and a little bit of it on the floor. Was shot 4 or 5 times, so after they came through the door, they shot him again to make sure he was dead. Mr. Montgomery.
Okay, I gotta pause right here because important about what he just said is the police tried to paint the picture as if it was in a house. Started shooting at. He was not. It's crazy. This shit get deep, bro. I'm gonna just keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Dr. Constantino testified today that Mark Clark could not have struggled after receiving that shot through the heart. Now, in your mind, does this contradict the testimony of Officer Davis, who described a struggle?
Yes, it seems to me that that was a very startling thing. We also learned that the bullet, which was in fact recovered from Mr. Hampton's body, was a bullet fired out of a carbine by Officer Davis. So that indicates also that Officer Davis may well have walked into that back bedroom, contrary to his testimony, and fired a shot into the body of Fred Hampton at one point in time or other.
While he was sound asleep with his 19-year-old fiancée.
This is where our chairman had his brains blown out, and he lay in his bed, sleeping at 4:30 in the morning.
The great variance between the physical evidence and the testimony of the officers raises the question as to whether the officers are falsifying their accounts. Those officers fired 99 shots through the walls of an apartment where they knew people were sleeping. Murder is defined in Illinois as follows: a person who kills an individual without lawful justification commits murder.
He wasn't hiding. He wasn't running from anyone. He did absolutely nothing wrong.
Someone came into the room, started shaking the chairman. Said, Chairman, wake up. The pigs are vamping. Still half asleep. I looked up and I saw bullets coming from, it looked like the front of the apartment, from the kitchen area. When he looked up, he didn't say a word, and he didn't move, except for moving his head up. He laid his head back down to the side like that. He never said a word, he never got up out the bed.
His only offense was speaking up for himself and his people. That is all.
The person who was in the room, they kept hollering out, stop shooting, stop shooting. We have a pregnant woman, a pregnant sister in here. At that time, I was 8.5 to 9 months pregnant. My baby was to be delivered in 2 weeks. Pigs kept on shooting.
First thing I remember when I woke up was a knock on the door, and it was only a matter of seconds. In fact, I'd say it was less than 5 seconds that I heard, shots. Now, the thing that struck me was that I not only heard shots, but I can see plaster coming out of the walls in my room. So I knew the bullets were coming through the room that I was in.
Federal grand jury comes to its conclusions. Unquestionably, the raid was not professionally planned or properly executed. And the result of the raid was 2 deaths, 4 injuries, and 7 improper criminal charges. In spite of those conclusions, the report then goes on to say, the physical evidence and the discrepancies in the officers' accounts are insufficient to establish probable cause to charge the officers with a willful violation of the occupant's civil rights.
This is the sad, suppressed story of Frederick Allen Hampton.
When they got together, Bobby Seale, yes, they got together with guns, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we need some guns. Black people need some peace. White people need some peace. And we are going to have to fight. We're going to have to struggle. We're going to have to struggle relentlessly to bring about some peace, because the people that we're asking for peace, they're a bunch of megalomaniac warmongers, and they don't even understand what peace means. And we've got to fight them. We've got to struggle with them to make them understand what peace means.
Only just 3 years ago, the month of January 2021, being more than 50 years after the brutal police killing of Hampton, hundreds of suppressed FBI documents related to the COINTELPRO program were released through a Freedom of Information Act request. Among those documents was yet another bonus letter, this one from the desk of J. Edgar Hoover himself. In the letter, dated 6 days after Hampton's murder, the FBI director thanked Roy Martin Mitchell, the Chicago FBI agent who orchestrated the raid, for his exemplary efforts.
I am certainly pleased to commend you and to advise you that I have approved an incentive award in the amount of $200 for your outstanding services in a matter of considerable interest to the FBI in the racial field.
Did you?
$200. They gave this man $200 to wipe off one of the most powerful men that was out there because he was trying to unify the people. Shit's crazy, bro. Like, and this is the people that I don't care, bro. Like, this is the people that y'all want to go vote for. Y'all want to keep this democracy bullshit going, knowing that these people don't have our best interests at heart, bro. Like, history has shown time and time again that, like, the people, the power is with the people. Like, even he said it himself. The power is with the people. You want to overthrow anything that we're faced as a people, we have to come together. And the government knows that. So that's why they divide and conquer. Let's keep it rolling.
You hear that? The racial field, he says. This was what J. Edgar Hoover had written to one of the chief organizers of the raid, implying that there was not an iota of remorse in the extermination of such a vibrant young life, because he was black. The cold murder was something of joy, of fulfillment, of pride for the FBI, the police, and the U.S. government. This was pure evil assassination. Now let us start from the start.
Bobby Seale is going through all types of physical and mental torture. But that's all right, because we said even before this happened, and we're going to say it after this, and after I'm locked up, and after everybody's locked up, that you can jail revolutionaries, but you can't jail a revolution. Right. You might run a liberator like Harris Cleave out the country, but you can't run liberation out the country. You might murder a freedom fighter like Bobby Hutton, but you can't murder freedom fighting, and if you do, you come up with answers that don't answer, explanations that don't explain, you come up with conclusions that don't conclude. And you come up with people that you thought should be acting like pigs, that's acting like people and moving on pigs, and that's what we've got to do. So we're going to see about Bobby, regardless of what these people think we should do. Because school is not important and work is not important. Nothing's more important than stopping fascism, because fascism will stop us all.
The racial progress in the U.S. was at its turning point. Activists won major civil rights battles, and the era of Jim Crow laws had come to an end. But at the end of the decade, there were some deep social and economic gaps for Black people across the country. Black Americans continued to face high poverty rates, poor housing, poor education, and unemployment, and they had little to no political representation. These disparities and an increase in police brutality had led inevitably to uprisings across the country. Many young Black activists were frustrated that the changes they'd been expecting weren't forthcoming, so they decided to stand up and fight for their rights. This is how the young man, Fred Hampton,
I dare you to let me build you a completely
emerged in the crazy picture of the Black struggle for equality. Frederick Allen Hampton, from the 30th of August 1948 to the 4th day of December 1969, became an activist early in his life in response to the climbing pressure and crying state of the collective black communities at the time. The youngest child of Francis and Iberia Hampton, Fred, was raised in the Chicago suburbs with his brother and sister. Among his family's acquaintances was Emmett Till, a black child whom Iberia had babysat. In 1955, when Till was a teenager visiting relatives in Mississippi, he was licked by local white men. The Hampton family's connection with Till, along with their experience of racial inequity in their suburban community, made Fred keenly aware of racial injustice. This had left a great impression on him as a boy growing up, and had played a great role to the man he gradually became in a troubled community whose plights needed urgent answers.
Why do I have a lot of arrests? Because of harassment. Why is that harassment? Because the people that harass me have set up a problem that made me disagree with them violently, and they set up this problem in order to exploit me and other people like me. And why they want to get rid of me? Because I'm saying something that might wake up some other exploited people and some other oppressed people, and if all these people ever get together, then these pigs that are exploiting us, we'll be able to run them into the lake. That's why they want to get rid of us.
As a high school student,
That's the thing. Since before I was here, you cut off the head, the body dies. So you kill the top of a organization, you kill their leader, you kill their, like, it does irreversible damage. So like, and he warned people. It's just things got, it's like after that happened and a few more other prominent leaders were taken out, it's like they pushed the drugs, and that's when everything just kind of, we lost our power as a people, man.
Fred Hampton was really concerned about the absolute freedom of the blacks. In a quest to fulfill this dream, he made so many sacrifices for Black American community, even though he was young. He organized student campaigns for more black teachers and administrators, pressed the school to select its first black homecoming queen, and had even led protests at the Maywood Police Station. In addition to his portfolio, Hampton had organized trips for local black children to the nearest racially mixed public pool, but it was about 5 miles, that is 8 kilometers away. At one particular rally, when store windows were broken and a shed set ablaze, protesters clashed with the local police. Who was responsible for the damage remains unclear, but Hampton and 17 others were at this point charged with disorderly conduct and mob action. That notwithstanding, the rallies eventually accomplished their goal. A goal for an integrated pool for Maywood, which was later approved, and the village board named the site the Fred Hampton Family Aquatic Center. This is to say, in the least, how passionately devoted Hampton was in the struggle for the betterment of the black communities in the United States. In 1966, Hampton, by then a junior college student, was recruited to join the West Suburban National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP chapter, and eventually led the branch's youth council. After experiencing a series of negative, occasionally violent interactions with the police at rallies and demonstrations, he was frustrated with both the NAACP and the civil rights movement at large. So he parted ways with the by-the-book NAACP and before long joined the Black Panther Party as one of the Illinois chapter's original members. The Black Panther Party, founded 2 years earlier in Oakland, California by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, had originally been intended to organize patrols of black neighborhoods and protect residents from police brutality. Shortly, it evolved into a Marxist revolutionary group whose main aim was to pay reparations to African Americans for the centuries of exploitation they had endured, for exempting African Americans from the military draft, and for harming African American communities. Hampton had attained prominence in his late teens and very early 20s in Chicago as deputy chairman of the National Black Panther Party and chair of the Illinois chapter. His charisma and distinct quality as a promising leader was undeniable, On joining the Black Panther Party in 1967, Hampton had worked wholeheartedly for the group, devoting his time, resources, and energy to it. The group, seeing his zealousness, would not hesitate in making him the prominent leader and deputy chairman of the Chicago, Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. His enthusiastic sacrifices paved the way for the group's development. There had been so many known instances where Hampton portrayed his undying love for his fellow Black Americans. Some good examples include when he organized food pantries, educational programs, and recreational outlets for impoverished children, and how he also helped in bringing about a peaceful coexistence among the city's rival street gangs. Hampton
Ding, ding, ding. Oh, shit. 1 second, John. I done fucked my shit up. But no, that's like, oh, let me get plugged back up. I don't know how I did that. Okay. So, what he was saying was a big part of why they did what they did was because there's always been gangs, but gangs have not always had the same ideology and way of thinking that they have now. A lot of the Chicago, Illinois gangs that started out, the ones that you know about the most, like the BDs, the GDs, the Vice Lords, they actually stood for something at one point. During, I want to say, I don't want to speak out of turn. I got to do a little bit more research on it. But during a certain point, there was a shift where one group wronged another group, and ever since it's just been bloodshed, bloodshed, bloodshed. And instead of taking that, basically what they wanted to do is take our energy, time, and focus away from the wrongdoing of the white people, and they want us to look at each other and destroy each other, and they want us to tear each other apart. That way we're doing their bidding for them. They don't have to do what they had to do back in the day, because there's new ways of them doing so, via prison, via the impoverished areas that a lot of these people live in. People just grow up as products of their environment. So I'm gonna keep it rolling.
Considered fascism the greatest threat, saying that nothing is more important than stopping fascism because fascism will stop us all. As time went on, the Black Panther Party had begun gaining some reputation down to the very grassroots of American society due to its active and welcome social endeavors. As a reason, the group had begun posing some serious concerns to the U.S. government. According to J. Edgar Hoover, director of the FBI then,
the Black Panthers were the greatest threat to the internal security of the country.
And how so? Just nothing but that undying rabid hate in a white man's soul to see the black man rise above slavery and oppression. No sooner had the Chicago Black Panthers begun than the FBI took to monitoring their activity. Hampton was a possible suspect for what Hoover considered the threat of an emerging messiah, a leader who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist movement. Malcolm X, prior to his assassination, Martin Luther King Jr., Stokely Carmichael, and Elijah Muhammad had also been among those targeted as possible agitators. The FBI had been present at the scene of the Chicago Black Panthers Foundation too, in the person of informant William O'Neill, an African-American teenager.
This is the rat. And I don't even like using that term, but not only was he a rat, he was a pig and a rat. He was paid about, well, back then, it would have been about $200,000. In today's money, to basically infiltrate the Black Panthers and tear it apart. And he did it successfully. And as he did so, after I forget how long after everything happened. I know he was in his older life. A documentary came out about him. The day they aired it, he killed himself. Cause you can't take down a person like Fred Hampton and not expect people to. And I feel like that's kind of what feeds into that. It's that eye for an eye kind of mentality. But he truly was a coward because he couldn't face the backlash that he knew he was gonna get once everybody found out he was who he was and he did what he did.
Who a few months earlier had stolen a car, driven it under the influence of alcohol, and crashed it. In exchange for dropping the resulting charges against him, O'Neill, who had been appointed as the Illinois chapter security director, provided the FBI with reports on Panther meetings, members' access to weapons, and the floor plans of their homes, with a special focus on Fred Hampton. In other words, they had compromised one of his own, a fellow black man, to snitch on him, and the Judas had fallen for it to save his own head. With Hampton as deputy chairman, the Illinois chapter launched community service projects in Chicago like those the Panthers had initiated in Oakland, including a free medical clinic and a free breakfast program for children. Although the latter served as the inspiration for the USDA's expansion of its own free breakfast program and the creation of the National School Breakfast Program that was later authorized in 1975, Hoover had maliciously said that the inspiration came from the wrong source and would try all means mischievous to make it look so.
This ready for it.
They began to make life miserable for Fred Hampton and the Black Panthers.
And we got around 9 people still locked up in jail. We have 2 people still locked up in jail from a July 30th shootout we had with the pigs. And we have around 4 or 5 more still locked up from the last ambush at the office on a week ago Saturday, I think. And these people are people that work hard for the party here in Chicago. And the main thing that we believe caused the vamp on the office leads right back to what you were talking about, the chairman being in Chicago. You know, people came into the office and piled up the supplies for the health clinic and burned it in the middle of the floor. This showed some type of megalomaniac tendencies that these people have because they're obsessed and they're crazy with power. They came into there and they ripped the brothers out of the office and then beat them brutally when they got them outside the office. The brothers did not shoot at them like they claimed they did. They said that somebody in the block was sniping and these drunkard bastards went up in the office and burned the whole office down because some people were shooting at them. The main issue is that the chairman's down there at the federal building and the chairman's being tried illegally because the chairman is not a criminal. As a matter of fact, he's just the opposite of a criminal. He's just as far from being a criminal as that judge is from being a teenager because he's the father of our Breakfast for Children program. He's the father of our free health clinic. And this is not, if this is criminal, then we all want to be criminal. If it's criminal to feed children that are hungry, if it's criminal to start a program that says that the only prerequisite that people have to involve themselves in this program is to be hungry, then that we're going to continue to be criminal. If it's criminal to say that the only prerequisite that people have to have when they want free medical aid is that they be sick, then we intend to continue to be criminal.
In Richmond, Virginia, FBI agents...
Okay, listen to what he just said. So, America, one of their biggest money makers, well, 2 of their biggest money makers is what he just touched on. It's going to be the food industry and it's going to be healthcare. Why, especially if the FBI is involved, you know it's made it to the big wig. So, I feel like the president, among others, you know, just, I don't know. They knew what they were doing, man. They didn't want the power of the people. They want you to rely on them. They want those free food programs to stick around. They want those because they benefit off of it. They get paid from it. Versus like someone of our like background doing it strictly for the love, strictly for it. You don't have to pay a dime. They did not want to see that. So I don't know. I just hate that we can't all live in unison. There's nothing wrong with helping the next person next to you. There's nothing wrong with like, and I feel like the more we've gotten away from that, the worse things get. Everybody just want their own motion. That's the big thing. Everybody want their own shit. Of course. But do you think about the bigger picture at all as to what it could be if we all came together? How we could all thrive, how we could all eat. There's no reason anybody should be going hungry, homeless, anything like that. With the money that's circulating throughout the world, not just the country, in the world. Because it's not just here. America has tried to plant their ways in all of these different places so that they can thrive and keep things the way they are. But if you even go back to the times of like the Roman Empire and things of that nature, you'll know history always repeats itself and that they're going to be the makers of their own downfall. So enough yapping. Let me get back into it.
Agents had begun visiting houses, warning parents that the Panthers were using the breakfast to teach racial divisiveness. In San Francisco, California, a rumor had spread that the food was contaminated by venereal disease. A former Panther claimed that the night before the Chicago free breakfast program was supposed to begin, the Chicago police had broken into the church where the Panthers stored the food, and they'd mashed up all the food and urinated on them.
There's a creative side hustle almost nobody is talking.
Like, did y'all hear that? They broke into their place and pissed on the food that they were giving to the children. like
The program's opening was delayed, but the vandalism inspired support from the community. Hampton had used his talent as a communicator to create what he termed a rainbow coalition, an alliance of the Panthers with other groups organized around racial, ethnic, or ideological affiliation. Bringing together groups that otherwise would have had almost no positive contact, including the Puerto Rican Young Lords Association, the Poor White Young Patriots Organization, and the Blackstone Ranger Street Gang. The Rainbow Coalition provided aid to low-income citizens by combining the member groups' varied resources.
We gotta face some facts. That the masses are poor, that the masses belong to what you call the lower class, and when I talk about the masses, I'm talking about the white masses, I'm talking about the black masses, and the brown masses, and the yellow masses too. We've got to face the fact that some people say you fight fire best with fire, but we say you put fire out best with water. We say you don't fight racism with racism. We're going to fight racism with solidarity. We say you don't fight capitalism with no black capitalism. You fight capitalism with socialism.
That, man, I want to get that saying on like some type of poster or something, like some type of something, because that's a real ass, true ass statement, man. Like, it's just crazy. They literally tried to go about things the right way, yet they were still hated and decimated. It's crazy.
These were Fred Hampton's words of solidarity, the philosophy behind his wit, which had turned him into a unifier of diverse skin colors, cultures, and peoples at that time. Fred had people doing push-ups in the morning, prepping food for the community, and giving people a purpose who never had one at 21 years old. As Fred's influence began to grow, so did the desperate desire of the U.S. government to destroy him and the Black Panthers even quicker. Hampton, along with other Panthers, had become identified as a radical threat by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The FBI had begun disseminating false information about the groups Fred belonged to and placed a counterintelligence operative, also called COINTELPRO, on the local Panthers. A hearing on FBI misconduct uncovered documents containing directives to destroy the Panthers' Breakfast for Children program and to disrupt the distribution of the Black Panthers newspaper. In an attempt to bring down Hampton and the Black Panther Party, so many accusations were being leveled against him and the party. The U.S. government had begun using the media, which obviously was at their beck and call, as a...
See, that's what I'm telling y'all. Propaganda, the media, you don't think they, like, bro, they control everything. They control what you watch. They control what you consume. It's all propaganda, bro. Like, if you go back and look at what propaganda actually is and what it means, like, it's actually crazy. Because I think in, like, when I was younger, I knew what propaganda was, but I never really grasped the concept of what propaganda is. And if you go and look at who created propaganda, that's a whole nother... Hey, let me write that down. I'm gonna write that down now, because I want to do another video on that. And we may do it after this. The father of propaganda. Because that shit is crazy. Alright. Let's get into it, man.
Weapon against them. They had begun spreading so much news through every available news vendors with all kinds of mind-troubling headlines like Oakland policemen slain in gunfight with Negroes, armed Black Panthers invade state assembly chambers, Black Panther chief on trial for murder, Black Panther fight kills police officer, the gun-wearing Black Panthers, and so on. Fred Hampton was arrested on so many occasions, some of which included his arrest in 1969 with an old traffic warrant, a court order requiring a person's arrest and commanding their appearance before the judge. Later that year, he was also arrested and went on trial for stealing ice cream bars in the Chicago suburb of Maywood in 1968. Hampton and the other members of the Black Panthers Party tried convincing the court that he was innocent of the accusations, that it was all a setup, but after all said and done, he was convicted and sentenced to 2 to 5 years in prison. The tension...
Bro, could you imagine doing 2 to 5 years in prison over ice cream that you did not steal? Like, come on, bro. Like, it's crazy.
Between the Panthers and police also rose when 2 officers and a Black Panther were killed during a November 1969 shootout. A gun battle in which 18 were injured, 2 police officers and a 19-year-old Black Panther were killed. Authorities felt Hampton's role in the party linked him to the police deaths, though he was out of town when the confrontation took place. However, Fred survived the accusations, harsh treatment, COINTELPRO and governmental smear campaigns, but not the assassin's bullets. Early in the pre-dawn hours of December 4th, 1969, a People's Gas truck had pulled up in front of an apartment building at 2337 West Monroe Street in the west side of Chicago. 14 plainclothes Chicago police officers quietly filed out of the undercover truck, armed with pistols, a shotgun, a machine gun, and a detailed map of their target, an apartment occupied by leaders of the Chicago chapter of the...
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking of AI creation platform.
Black Panther Party. The map clearly identified the bedroom of Fred Hampton, the 21-year-old chairman of the Chicago Black Panthers, who was asleep beside his 8-month pregnant fiancée, who was only 19. It was 4:30 a.m., and at such an hour of the day, the police had kicked down the front door and started shooting. Ballistics report
not true. They didn't kick the door down, then start shooting. They knocked on the door. Buddy came to the door and said, "Who is it?" on something like that. Then they started shooting because they knew they were in there.
Later showed that they fired more than 90 times, including machine gun rounds through exterior walls and windows. When the volley of bullets finally stopped, 4 of the young Black Panthers inside the apartment lay shot and critically wounded, and 2 had been killed. The first was Mark Clark, who reached for his own shotgun before taking a bullet through the heart. The second was Fred Hampton, gunned down in his bed. The police were acting under the orders of Edward Hanrahan, the Cook County State's attorney, who held a press conference claiming that his officers were surprise attacked by the Black Panthers as the police tried to execute a search warrant for illegal weapons in the apartment.
The immediate violent criminal reaction of the occupants in shooting at announced police officers emphasizes the extreme viciousness of the Black Panther Party,
said Hanrahan. But this was all just cold, unfeeling lies of devils in human form. While it didn't take long for Hanrahan's account to fall apart, it took more than a decade for the whole disturbing truth to come to light. Not only was the killing of Hampton and Clark a cold-blooded assassination of 2 militant Black activists, but documents later revealed it was coordinated by the FBI as part of a secret program to neutralize and destroy the Black Panther Party, which FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover privately called the greatest threat to the internal security of the country. And Jerry, Hampton's fiancée, had sadly stated that after the police removed her from the room, they said Hampton was barely alive. She then heard 2 more shots, followed by the words, "He's good and dead now."
The next thing I remember was someone in our room shaking Chairman Fred. Chairman, wake up, wake up. Plaster was flying off the wall. You could smell the cordite from the gunshot. If you've ever been under gunfire, 5 minutes is 5 hours. To you, it seems like forever. The shooting started back again. Then another voice unfamiliar to me said, "He's good and dead now." I knew they were talking about Chairman Fred.
He's good and dead now.
That statement alone is a confirmation that Fred Hampton was marked for death all along. And that mission, at that moment, was accomplished. It must have been really gruesome, the pain Akua and Jerry, Fred Hampton's fiancée, had to go through. She was only 19, too tender for such a cruel, ungodly experience. In 1 minute, she was lying on the same bed with her fiancé, who was hale and hearty, and in another minute, he was gone to a path of no return, leaving behind their 8 months unborn child, one he may have only imagined but would never get to see his face again. William O'Neill, who at this point was Hampton's trusted friend and bodyguard, and was in charge of security on the night of Hampton's murder, was widely believed to have drugged Fred Hampton so as to ensure that he would not be able to defend himself. He had also provided the floor plan of Hampton's apartment to the FBI, which made it easy for the police to track his position. No illegal weapons were found during the raid, but the 7 Panthers who survived, 4 of whom were injured, were arrested for aggravated assault and attempted murder.
Tell me how that makes sense. How can you be charged with attempted murder and aggravated assault with no weapons? Like, come on, man. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
What oppression in the world could be worse than that? As the apartment was not sealed off, the Black Panther Party subsequently offered tours of the scene. Though the police account was that they had been responding to gunfire, this story was debunked when what had been described by law enforcement as holes created by Panther bullets were shown to be actually nail heads. Charges against the Panthers who had survived the raid were dismissed in 1970 after a critical investigation on the case. In that same year, a federal grand jury investigation also found that police had fired 82 to 99 times, with only one shot coming from those in the apartment, which was in self-defense. Cook County State's Attorney Edward Hanrahan, who had directed the raid, was indicted for obstruction of justice in 1971, along with an assistant and 12 officers from the raid. However, no convictions resulted from any of these charges. By 1972, Hanrahan was voted out of office. This was a harbinger of shifting Chicago politics, leading to the election of the first black mayor of Chicago, Harold Washington, in 1983. That same year, a settlement was reached for the city of Chicago, Cook County, and the federal government to pay $1.85 million to survivors of the raid and to Hampton's and Clark's families, with a ruling that stated the government had conspired against the Black Panther Party and violated the civil rights of the plaintiffs. Really? Would this bring back the lost souls? Would this wipe out the scars that they put on the minds of the young ones? Will this money heal the ailing hearts of those parents whose kids has only been killed for nothing? How about the young women who have been turned into widows from very similar cases at a very young age? However, we are going to close this video with a heart-touching statement by Ogre. Every time the economic system is challenged by poor people reclaiming what was stolen from them, it's met with brutal violence. From the diggers in England who had their life based on common land stolen from them, to striking miners, to striking workers in Detroit and Michigan, to poor blacks in the South, from Fred Hampton, who was uniting across racial lines in Chicago, to MLK, who was creating a poor people's movement across racial lines, from indigenous people to Oka in Chiapas, Mexico, overseas like Cuba, which was the greatest victim of terrorist attack in history, to Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. The list goes on and on. The only way to stop this is solidarity and mobilization, and keep on fighting. Someday we will build a giant monument to Fred Hampton in Chicago, because eventually justice and humanity will win. 50 years after Hampton's tragic death, his words continue to speak to the lives of marginalized classes, races, and castes across countries who continue to be persecuted by the same institutionalized foot soldiers of racialized capitalism. That brings us to the end of yet another very touching video segment. Support our work by kindly hitting the thumb button, share with your families and friends to keep spreading our eye-opening Black narrative, and subscribe to stay with us if you are yet to. We've got more eye-opening stories ahead, and we are delighted to have you. Thank you for watching.
have dogs who are big and some who are small. At AKC,
California, a man who epitomized the turbulent era of civil rights and revolutionary activism, left an indelible mark on history. Huey Newton, a co-founder of the Black Panther Party, was a charismatic leader whose unwavering commitment to racial equality and social justice stirred the souls of many. From his fierce advocacy for black empowerment to his profound intellectual pursuits, Newton's life was a roller coaster of triumphs and tragedies. In this documentary, we journey through the extraordinary life of Huey Newton, a visionary, an icon, and a symbol of defiance in the face of oppression. Huey Newton was born in Monroe, Louisiana, 1942, right during World War II. His parents, Amelia Johnson and Walter Newton, were sharecroppers and Baptist preachers. They named him after Huey Long, who used to be the governor of Louisiana. Now, Monroe is in Ouachita Parish, and unfortunately, that place has a long history of violence. Against black people, going all the way back to the Reconstruction era. According to a report from 2015, there were 37 documented cases of black people being lynched in that parish between 1877 and 1950, making it one of the counties with the highest number of lynchings in the southern United States. Given all the violence they faced, the Newton family decided to move to Oakland, California, as part of the second wave of the Great Migration, a movement of African Americans leaving the South in search of better opportunities and to escape the harsh treatment they endured. Life wasn't easy for the Newtons, though. During Newton's childhood, they were quite poor and had to move around a lot within the San Francisco Bay Area. As a teenager, Newton had a few run-ins with the law. He got arrested a couple of times for things like gun possession and vandalism. It wasn't the best path to be on, but he managed to turn things around later in life. Growing up in Oakland, he felt this sense of shame about being black. But as we go on, you'll see that despite all the challenges and adversities he faced, Newton went on to become an important figure and made a significant impact on the civil rights movement. After high school graduation in 1959 from Oakland Technical High School, he went on to attend Merritt College. There, in 1966, he earned an Associate of Arts degree. During his early adult years, Newton found Plato's Republic to be a highly influential work. In fact, during the trial for the killing of Officer John Frey, he mentioned to the court that he had actually learned to read by studying the Republic. In his autobiography called Revolutionary Suicide, he talks about how he began questioning what was happening not only in his own family, but also in the community around him. While studying at Merritt College in Oakland, Newton became quite involved in Bay Area politics. He joined the Afro-American Association, AAA, and became a prominent member of the Beta Tau chapter of the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. He even played a role in getting the college to adopt its first African-American history course. It was through the AAA that Newton had the opportunity to learn about black history from Donald Warden, who later changed his name to Khalid Abdullah Tariq al-Mansour. At first, Newton found Warden's ideas compelling, but later on, he came to the conclusion that Warden's solutions didn't actually work. In his autobiography, Newton expressed his skepticism, stating that the mass media gave Warden exposure for a specific reason, to mislead people away from the truth of their situation. During his time in college, Newton was an avid reader. He delved into the works of influential figures such as Karl Marx, Vladimir Lenin, Frantz Fanon, Malcolm X, Mao Zedong, Emil Durkheim, and Che Guevara. Their writings and ideas significantly impacted his worldview and political beliefs. At Merritt College, Newton crossed paths with Bobby Seale, and their chance encounter led to the founding of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, BPP, in October 1966. Seale became the chairman, while Newton assumed the role of Minister of Defense, based on their casual conversation. The Black Panther Party was a left-wing organization that advocated for the right of self-defense for black individuals in the United States. Malcolm X played a crucial role in shaping the beliefs of the Black Panther Party, and Newton acknowledged his profound influence, describing the party as a living testament to Malcolm X's life work. The Black Panther Party gained national and international recognition for its active involvement in the Black Power movement and the political landscape of the 1960s and 70s. In his autobiography, Newton reflected on his efforts to transform what society labeled as criminal activities in the streets into something with political significance. He recognized the need for a gradual shift in mindset and actions. He aimed to redirect these daily activities for survival toward meaningful community actions. However, over time, the illegal activities of a few individuals within the Black Panther Party started overshadowing the impactful social programs they were involved in. This mischaracterization caused them to lose some support within black communities and among white individuals. Newton and the Panthers initiated various social programs in Oakland, making a positive impact on the community. One notable endeavor was the establishment of the Oakland Community School, which provided high-quality education to 150 children from underprivileged urban neighborhoods. They also launched the Free Breakfast for Children program and other initiatives that offered activities like dances for teenagers and martial arts training. According to John George, a supervisor in Oakland County, Newton remarkably inspired social consciousness even in individuals associated with street gangs. However, in 1982, Newton faced allegations of embezzling $600,000 of state aid intended for the Panther-founded Oakland Community School. The accusations of embezzlement led to the dissolution of the Black Panther Party. 6 years later, in March 1989, the embezzlement charges were dropped, and Newton pleaded no contest to a single count of cashing a $15,000 state check for personal use. He received a sentence of 6 months in jail and 18 months of probation. In mid-1964, Newton was convicted of assault with a deadly weapon for stabbing Odell Lee multiple times with a steak knife. He served a 6-month prison sentence. On October 27th and 28th, 1967, Newton was out celebrating after completing his probationary period. During the early hours of October 28th, Newton and a friend were stopped by Oakland Police Department officer John Frey. Recognizing Newton, Frey called for backup. When another officer, Herbert Heenes, arrived at the scene, gunfire erupted, and all 3 individuals were injured. Heenes testified that the shooting occurred after Newton had been placed under arrest, while one witness claimed Newton shot Frey with the officer's own gun during a struggle. No firearms were found on either Newton or Frey. Newton asserted that he lost consciousness during the incident after being shot by Frey. Unfortunately, Frey succumbed to his injuries shortly after being shot 4 times, while Heenes remained in serious condition from 3 gunshot wounds. David Hilliard, a Black Panther member, took Newton to Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, where he was admitted with an abdominal gunshot wound. Newton was handcuffed to his hospital bed and arrested for Frey's killing. Upon arrival, Newton requested treatment in an agitated state, and he was administered a tranquilizer to calm him down. In September 1968, Newton was convicted of voluntary manslaughter for killing Frey and received a prison sentence sentence of 2 to 15 years. However, in May 1970, the California Appellate Court overturned the conviction and ordered a new trial. Following 2 subsequent trials resulting in hung juries, the district attorney decided not to pursue a 4th trial, leading the Alameda County Superior Court to dismiss the charges. In his autobiography, Revolutionary Suicide, Newton claimed that Henes and Frey were shooting at each other from opposite directions during the shootout. Following his arrest on October 28, 1967, Newton pleaded not guilty to the murder of Officer John Frey. The Black Panther Party wasted no time in mobilizing a coalition to rally behind Newton and advocate for his release. In a significant show of support, the Peace and Freedom Party, a predominantly white anti-war political organization, joined forces with the Black Panther Party in December. This alliance served a dual purpose. It provided legitimacy to Newton's cause and enhanced the credibility of the party among more radical activists in the community. Under the joint leadership of the Black Panther Party and the Peace and Freedom Party, a powerful demonstration occurred on February 17th, 1968, coinciding with Newton's birthday. Around 5,000 protesters gathered in Oakland to express their solidarity with Newton. This event garnered widespread attention from international news organizations, greatly elevating the profile of the Black Panther Party. The phrase "Free Huey" became a rallying cry for the movement and appeared on buttons and t-shirts. Kathleen Cleaver, a prominent member of the Black Panther Party, emphasized that the Free Huey campaign aimed to position Newton as a symbol representing the party's core values, effectively creating a living martyr. As the trial began on July 15, 1968, it quickly transcended the individual case of Newton and evolved into a politically charged movement with racial undertones. Over the course of 2 years, encompassing Newton's original trial and subsequent appeals, the coalition steadfastly supported him. Finally, on August 5, 1970, the charges against Newton were overturned and he was released from custody. The unwavering support from the coalition played a crucial role in achieving this outcome. After being released from prison, Newton got this invitation to visit China. But here's the interesting part. Newton decided to beat him to it and visit China first when he learned President Nixon planned to visit China in 1972. In late September 1971, Newton and his fellow Panthers, Elaine Brown and Robert Bay, embarked on the trip. By the time Newton's plane touched down at a Chinese airport, he was met by thousands of enthusiastic people waving copies of The Little Red Book and holding signs that said things like, "We support the Black Panther Party," "Down with U.S. imperialism," or "We support the American people, but the Nixon imperialist regime must be overthrown." During his stay, the Chinese arranged some pretty important meetings for Newton. He got to have dinner with ambassadors from North Korea and Tanzania, and delegations from North Vietnam and the Provisional Revolutionary Government of South Vietnam. Newton was hoping to meet Mao Zedong, the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party. But instead, he had 2 meetings with the Chinese premier, Zhou Enlai, and Mao's wife, Jiang Qing, joined in on one of the meetings. Newton had a pretty interesting perspective on China. He described it as a free and liberated territory with a socialist government. After Newton's Asian adventure, the Black Panther Party started incorporating North Korea's Juche ideals into their own ideology. They were clearly influenced by what they witnessed and learned during the trip. During the 1970s, there were allegations that Newton had become increasingly paranoid, developed a crack cocaine addiction, and exhibited violent tendencies. A significant incident occurred on August 6, 1974, involving the shooting of Kathleen Smith, a 17-year-old native of Oakland and a child prostitute. Smith succumbed to her injuries 3 months later. According to the prosecutor involved in the case, it is believed that Newton shot Smith following a casual exchange on the street during which she referred to him as Baby, a childhood nickname that he despised. In this case, the main witness refused to testify for fear of assassination. After 2 trials resulted in deadlocked juries, Newton was not convicted of the shooting. There are also reports of Newton assaulting his tailor over a disagreement about the price of a suit. In 1974, Newton was arrested for striking the tailor with a pistol, but he was able to secure release after posting bail. Newton obtained his bachelor's degree from the University of California at Santa Cruz in 1974. While serving time in prison in 1978, he formed a close friendship with evolutionary biologist Robert Trivers. Newton sought to pursue a graduate degree in the history of consciousness and applied to do a reading course with Trivers. Together, they published an analysis of the role of flight crew self-deception in the 1982 crash of Air Florida Flight 90. Trivers even dedicated a chapter of his autobiography to his relationship with Newton. In 1980, Newton completed his PhD in the social philosophy program of History of Consciousness at the University of California at Santa Cruz. His doctoral dissertation, titled War Against the Panthers, A Study of Repression in America, examined various aspects of the Black Panther Party's development, including the response of the U.S. federal government to the party and the assassinations of Fred Hampton, Bunchy Carter, and John Huggins. Newton drew from sources such as 2 federal civil rights lawsuits, one against the FBI and other government officials, and another initially against the city of Chicago. Newton's academic research, often overlooked, was discussed by his widow, Frederica Newton, during an episode of C-SPAN's American Perspectives program on February 18, 2006. Following the decline of the Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton completed numerous unpublished essays on philosophy, political theology, evolutionary biology, and political economy, which are currently held in an archive at Stanford University. Unfortunately, in the early morning of August 22, 1989, Huey Newton was fatally shot in front of 1456 9th Street in the Lower Bottoms area of Oakland, California. Shortly after the incident, Tyrone Robinson, who was on parole, was arrested as a suspect. Robinson confessed to the murder, claiming self-defense, although no evidence indicated that Newton was armed. In 1991, Robinson was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to prison for 32 years to life. He revealed that his motive was to advance within the Black Guerrilla family, a Marxist-Leninist narcotics prison gang, in order to gain control of a crack cocaine operation. Newton's funeral took place at Allen Temple Baptist Church, where he had been attending following his conversion. The service accommodated around 1,300 mourners inside the church, with an additional 500 to 600 people listening from outside. The funeral celebrated Newton's contributions to civil rights and his work on behalf of black children and families through the Black Panther Party. Newton's body was cremated and his ashes were interred at Evergreen Cemetery in Oakland. To honor the legacy of the Black Panther Party and commemorate Huey Newton, the city of Oakland erected a bust of Newton near the location where he was murdered on February 17, 2021. Additionally, a commemorative plaque was placed on this section of 9th Street, renaming it Dr. Huey P. Newton Way in his honor. If you enjoyed this documentary, please like and subscribe to the channel. We're covering all of the legends in our culture. Speaking of that, the video on the screen shares the life of Malcolm X, one of the best leaders of all time. Click on it now to watch.
All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. I gotta start chopping this video up. But till next time, I might boot back up later on tonight. Just to hop on some games. But that's about it, man. I don't know. I'm gonna find a way to do this like every week, at least 2 times.